this would be a good time to talk about mindset and
Yeah.
just sports psych of doing
Yeah.
intervals and you know what your mental game is, what you should bring. And let me just preface this by saying, in a race, there's usually, in a road race, there's usually this crux 5-minute moment where you make the break or you don't, or you the whole race is decided. And the athletes that have done that interval work are prepared mentally. You can't just flip a switch in a race and dig super duper deep. You got to practice that with interval training in your training.
Yeah.
And what to think about the mindset, the macho mindset is, be a caged tiger and just be like, rah, I got it, I'm going to charge on this. And that, that'll get you through your first couple of interval workouts. Always do an interval workout following a rest day. VO2 max intervals deserve a lot of respect in the training program. So you're coming off of a rest day. I think you should use that rest day to prepare mentally to get up for that interval workout. A little cup of coffee never hurts. Just being psyched on it. If you have the mindset of you're dreading your intervals, you're doing it wrong. You got to fix that and before you get out there. You're doing these intervals to make yourself better.
Right. And so if you're going into these workouts super tired, you're not recovering properly, or you're going too hard on your rest days, then that's going to manifest into really struggling mentally to get into the zone of preparing for those efforts, and B, it's going to undermine the quality of those training sessions, right? Because if you're mentally not there, it doesn't matter how strong you are. It's like impossible to get the motivation and get that like psych to get through that,
I kind of joke with my athletes. I'm like, just feel yourself getting faster.
Yeah.
You're doing good work. And so that's the positive things. I think if you're out there doing your intervals and you're saying, oh God, this sucks, that's what you're going to think about when you're racing. And that's a bad training habit.
And get
out of that.
And this all comes with a well-designed training plan because, if you really want to get into it, having someone, a coach or some sort of accountability buddy.
Yeah, as Kobe says, accountability buddy.
Some way to some like third party to tell you that like, okay, well, maybe the training plan says you have to do these intervals today or this kind of long sweet spot ride today, but you're not feeling it, like someone else to tell you that it's okay to not do that workout or to rest a little bit more in order to make the quality workout happen the next day or 2 days from now. Because if your training plan is too hard or you're not following it correctly or whatever reason, like that is sort of defeating the purpose of the training plan. You got to follow the plan, but you also have to follow your instinct and not let the power meter or the training plan get in the way of how your body is actually responding to those intervals or those training sessions.
And having someone analyze your data objectively will really help with that.
Yeah.
But getting back to this is why you want to look at your training plan as a whole, not wake up and look at your workouts on a daily basis. The athletes that plan for these like VO2 max interval workouts, for example, a couple days in advance, do enormously better than the athletes that are like, wake up and they're like, holy crap, I have VO2s today. It's really hard to flip the switch.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about when you're doing your intervals? It sounds kind of hokey, but it's important. And, visualization is a good thing. Visualizing yourself climbing at the front of the peloton. Obviously I think of myself as a cheetah running fast.
Big cat.
Big cat. You can visualize yourself climbing super smooth or just some sort of positive reinforcement. There's positive self-talk. Like, what are you thinking? What's going through your brain? What is there any internal dialogue? And make sure that that's positive. And it's okay if it's not, you're not good on the first couple interval workouts, but the athletes that have been doing intervals for years and years have developed some sort of internal dialogue and way to go through these intervals positively, and that translates into a positive experience when they're doing that intensity out on the road. And so, but you hear about people. What?
Oh.
Huh.
Weird.
Well, I think our live video just went.
Did the internet die or something?
I don't know. But just continuing that thought, since we still are doing a podcast, this is what they call the flow state. And, you'll hear about the yoga people say, just breathe. And you really, if you can, get halfway through an interval and you just take a somewhat of a deep breath and focus on your breathing, that really helps. I just, I use my power meter. I work backwards from the length of the interval. All sorts of kind of just ways to get through it. But the one thing that I try not to do is that negative self-talk. Let's see if we can just go live again. Let's do that. We'll have 2 videos.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that kind of brings something up interesting, like, that I haven't really thought about, which is with this, like, we're back live on Facebook.
Live on Facebook.
Okay. But just this concept of keeping it simple, because that having an overcomplicated interval workout, at least for me and probably for a lot of athletes, inevitably takes you out of stepping into that flow state, because I just know it's just so much more easy and simple for me to have a 5-minute VO2 effort to do. It's much less strain on the mind when you're already straining your body so much that you can kind of just like sit and sink into that, into that workout, into that, like, that interval, that specific effort, and then you can just flow right through that effort and have, you kind of get in the zone, you know. So having an overcomplicated workout can also affect that, I'm sure.
That's right. I mean, just, I use my power meter. If I'm doing a 4-minute interval, for example, and I'm doing 4 of those, I have my milestone. I've done 1 minute. I'm halfway through. I'm 3/4 of the way through. I'm done. Whoo, take a break. Just take it 1 interval at a time. Yeah. And, I've given up on interval workouts before because I'm whacked and I couldn't hit my power. I've also dug super deep on interval workouts before, and you finish that 4th interval as strong as your first one. There's an enormous sense of accomplishment. Yeah. And
it's one of the best parts of cycling, in my opinion.
Yeah. And guess what? That's going to give you confidence in your training. And when you toe the start line, it's going to give you confidence for when you're racing. And when it comes down to a crux moment and you need to be aggressive or really dig deep, because you've done these intervals and you've done them strong, you're going to, you don't have to flip a switch. You already got that in you. So interval training is really good for mental preparation. We probably could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. We should get a sports psych on to talk to us with it.
We should. That'd be a good podcast. Yeah. How to prepare
the mind.
What would be the
title
of the podcast?
It's like, like preparing the mind to prepare the body or something like that, because it's like
interval training for mental toughness.
Yeah. Training the mind, so, well, cause it's like, I think I think there's a lot of people now starting to recognize it, but I think it's been for a long time a very underappreciated and underrated part of cycling, part of sport in general, because there's all this emphasis on like, whoa, I mean, we were talking about this before we started, but Alex Honnold, is a great example of this, where he obviously is a complete beast. Physically. Yeah. But I think where he excels and why he's so good at what he does is because he has sharpened his mind so much over the years of doing these insane feats that he is able to control his body in a way that pretty much no one else in the world can, because he couldn't do what he does without having the mental sharpness of a Jedi, basically. And in Free Solo, he talks about that, about the warrior culture mindset of like, you are doing something that is a do or die. And getting your mind prepared for that. I mean, obviously cycling is not that intense, but it's, it's all within that spectrum of in a race, of being able to like have the confidence to follow a move that you're not sure that you're fully prepared for, or diving a crazy fast descent in the breakaway, it's all part of it. And so you have to be able to work on the mind. But alas, we digress. We should move on.
Speaking of the warrior mindset, I always use an expression in jest: cry in the dojo to laugh on the battlefield.
It's one of my favorites.
And
the best.
You got to do that in your interval training if you want to be able to do that in the racing. Yeah. So that's why intervals are so important. If you get beyond the physiological adaptations, you got to practice how you play, and you got to go hard in training if you want to go get faster. And a lot of people, just do sweet spot and base, and they just do group rides. But the athletes that do real intervals like this are the ones that get the most out of their potential in their bodies.